So I'll start again. Morning class. My name is Lance Thomas, and you can call me Mr. Thomas. So I'll be guest lecturer today, guest teacher today. Thank you, Mr. Hernandez, once again for allowing me this opportunity. Okay. What we'll do is we'll go through a lesson, English language arts, and it's a reading comprehension lesson. Okay. We're handing out these assignments. This is reading material. It's called the Spice Islands. Okay. And so I'll read the entire passage, and as I read through the passage, there are sections of each passage, and I will assess how well you've been listening after each section. Okay. So who's the paper passer for this class? You just pass these out, and once you guys are done, we will go ahead and do you have any extras? Okay, so which of you have ever used spices or seen your parents use spices in your food? How does it make your food taste when your mom or your dad or someone relative uses spices in food? Adds more flavor, exactly. Yeah. So, what else do spices do besides add flavor to food? What else do they do?
It makes it taste different than just regular, just plain with sugar.
So it adds flavor, right? How about preserving food? Do spices help preserve food? Some spices, maybe some like salt or other spices help to preserve. Yeah.
Like
Pepper, exactly. That helps to keep the food longer, right? Because what happens to food if it's left out too long, like meat was left out too long? Pardon? Well, it can rot, right? If meat is left out too long, it's not refrigerated, it's not properly salted or spiced, then it can rot. Okay, and then rotten food can make you sick, it can even kill you. Okay. All right, so I'll go ahead and I'll start reading. Okay. So, chapter 1, the Spice Islands. The spice of life. History can be changed by many things. A battle, an election, an earthquake, or even a rainstorm can alter the course of events. But would you ever have thought that peppercorns and cinnamon sticks could lead to one of history's great developments? Because it can be argued that the United States exists today because medieval Europeans liked spicy food. So I bought some spices that, did you guys have them? Did I hand them out yet? No. Okay. So I'm going to hand these out, and you guys can go ahead and. There's no one has any allergies. Anything? Oh, feel free to open them up and smell them. Taste them if you want. Make sure you pass them up to the entire class, okay? Thanks.
Don't really need a lot, and I have white teeth.
It
Do they all have the same? Or is it
No, this one is different. They're all different. So while you guys are passing the spices around, we'll continue on with the lesson. Okay. So today we're going to talk about the Spice Islands and their impact on the modern world. Okay. So supermarkets today, right? Supermarkets, they stock all sorts of spices that can be used to season or add flavor to different foods. In medieval Europe, however, people relied on spices not only to flavor the food, but also the way to preserve it. Okay? Without refrigerators or other cold storage, medieval Europeans used spices to extend the time period during which meats and other foods could be stored and then safely eaten before turning black. Next page. In the Middle Ages, spices were hard to get. Pepper, cinnamon, ginger, cloves, and other seasonings were grown in faraway Asia. Getting the spices to Europe took a lot of time and effort. Distances were great, and travel back and forth was dangerous. As a result, spices were very expensive. Europe's desire for cheaper spices sparked the age of European exploration and its settlement of the Americas. So does everyone understand that? Okay, so what was one of the benefits to Europe of the spice trade up there, seeking out these new commodities and products? What was one of the benefits to Europe? You have your hand raised.
I have kind of a bad benefit. They were expensive.
Well, that's true. They were expensive and hard to get, yes. So they cost more, right? And we had answer the question.
Just for smelling, we're not going to taste them right now.
Okay.
Okay? Just for smelling, I'm going to pass it around. Just a little sneaky sniff.
Yes, you got to. Took a lot of time and effort to get spices exactly because you're traveling great distances, right? So one of the biggest benefits was that the search for spices sparked the European age of exploration and the settlement of the Americas, because people traveled throughout the world looking for spices and helped them to explore the world and see different places. And as a result, they developed contacts with these different parts of the world, so now they could go explore and settle in different places in the world. Okay. Okay, the Spice Islands. Different spices come from different places. Many of the most desirable spices come from the islands of present-day Indonesia. Indonesia is an archipelago or chain of islands. It stretches from southeast Asia's Malay Peninsula to the continent of Australia. This group, known as the Malay Archipelago, contains more than 13,000 islands. Some, like Sumatra and Java, are large. Others, like the Maluku Islands, located south of the Philippines, are smaller. Of all the spice-bearing islands, the Maluku Islands are probably the most famous. Indeed, for many years, Europeans referred to them as the Spice Islands. The islands of the Malay Archipelago are special. They mark the boundary between two sections of Earth's crust. The ridge formed by those sections is noted for its volcanoes and earthquake activity. It's part of the Ring of Fire, an arc of volcanoes that surrounds the rim of the Pacific Ocean. The equator runs through the Malay Archipelago, just south of the Malay Peninsula. Daytime temperatures are between 70 degrees and 90 degrees Fahrenheit year-round. Rainfall can be as much as 320 inches a year on the forested mountains of flat rain. On the rain shadow sites, it can be less than 20 inches a year. Overall, the annual average is 80 inches. Heat, heavy rainfall, and rich soil result in exceptional spice crops. Okay, so what part of the world was originally considered the Spice Islands? Where were the Spice Islands originally? Yes, yeah. Not Europe, no. The Maluku Islands were called Spice Islands, but really The local islands are part of what? What larger country or what larger part of the world? Yes.
India?
Not India, but close, Indonesia. Right? So Indonesia, like it says, is an archipelago with thousands of islands, and local islands were one part of that country, Indonesia, that contained a lot of spices. So those were called the spice islands, but it's actually the entire country of Indonesia. Okay, the quest for spices. You might wonder why the Europeans didn't just sail over to the spice islands and buy their spices. Well, it wasn't that simple. They did not know yet that the Atlantic Ocean went as far as the southern tip of Africa, nor were their ships and navigational skills suited to such long voyages. At this time, the exact location of the Spice Islands was a closely guarded secret. So who's guarding the secret of where the Spice Islands were located? Well, during the Middle Ages, the spice trade was controlled by Arab traders. They controlled the market not only for nutmeg and cloves from the Spice Islands, but also for ginger from China and cinnamon from India. For hundreds of years, from around 1100 till 1400, the Arabs managed to keep the location of the Spice Islands a secret. They even made up stories about how dangerous it was to sail to these islands. If you had been alive then, you would have heard stories told by Arab traders of the fantastic monsters and hideous flesh-eating birds that guarded the Spice Islands. Stories like these were designed to help the Arab traders preserve their monopoly of the spice trade. Monopoly means that they are the only ones that can control the spice trade. Okay? They control everything. No one else, there's no competition from any other place. So how did the spice trade work? Well, Arab traders sailed east to trading centers in India and Sri Lanka and the Spice Islands. And after loading up their ships, they sailed west again, back to Europe. Right? This trip was taken around the Arabian Peninsula and the Red Sea and north to Egypt. And there they sold the spices to merchants from Venice and other parts of Italy. The Arab traders made huge profits from this exchange. The Venetians did well too. The Venetians were Italian merchants from Venice, right? They negotiated with the Arab traders for distribution. They were the ones that would buy the spices from the Arab traders and then go to different parts of Europe and sell it to other Europeans. Right? So Europeans that wanted to buy spice had to deal with Venetian merchants from Venice. But the Venetian merchants, because they were the only ones that had access to the spice trade from the Arabs, they could set the prices as high as they wanted because no one else was going to compete with them. Right? So this made Venice a very wealthy city, and also made the Venetians very, very unpopular among the rest of the Europeans. Why would they be unpopular? Why would the Venetians be unpopular? Yes. Exactly, because they raised the price of spices, right? They kept the price of spices high because so they could make more profits because there was no competition from anywhere else, right? So, but wealthy Europeans had become used to exotic goods from the Venetian marketplace. At the same time, they were resentful of the high cost of doing business with Venetian merchants. So, at the same time, the Venetian merchants dreamed of a time when they would not have to deal with the Arab traders, but instead would be able to deal directly with merchants in the Spice Islands themselves. Okay. So now we go to the travels of Marco Polo. I bore you. Who has the last page?
I don't.
So Maffeo and Niccolo Polo were brothers who lived in Venice in the second half of the 13th century. The Polos were great traders and travelers. When the overland trade routes that had existed in Roman times opened up again, they set out to find a legendary market to the east. At the time, the Mongols controlled much of Asia and part of Europe. The Mongols made the roads safe for travelers, and many adventurers were anxious to seek their fortunes. Some went to trade for silk, gems, porcelain, and tea. Others hoped to find sources of the world's most exotic spices. When the Polo brothers started their second journey east in 1271, they decided to take Mikló's young son Marko with them. The expedition ended up taking 24 years to complete. The three spent time in the service of the Mongol ruler Kublai Khan and traveled throughout Asia by land and by sea. So how did the ancient travelers, ancient merchants get to those far-off locations? By sea and by land, yes. So that's how they traveled back then, by land and by sea. Marko's father and uncle served as military advisors to the great Khan. Kublai Khan took a liking to Marko. He sent Marko to distant parts of his kingdom on diplomatic missions, and wherever he went, Marko observed, asked questions, and remembered what he had seen. In 1925, Marco Polo returned to Venice. Soon after, he was captured in a war with a neighboring city. So now he went to jail. Right? His cellmate was a writer from the city of Pisa, and the writer wrote down what Marco told him about all his travels, and the writer wrote down what Marco said. So together they two produced a book called The Travels of Marco Polo, and it was read by people all over Europe. And so Marco Polo, he was the first. Anybody heard of Marco Polo? You guys all heard of Marco Polo? Okay. He was the first European to write about China, Thailand, the Malay archipelago, and other Asian islands. And his book inspired European map makers to update their maps. So almost 200 years after it was written, the book inspired an Italian sea captain named whom? Christopher Columbus. Okay, so Marco Polo inspired Christopher Columbus to embark on his voyage to seek out new trade routes, which ended up being the exploration and the contact with the New World, including America. For centuries, the search for spice islands attracted explorers, adventurers, and dreamers like a magnet. While searching for the spice islands, these explorers found lands, oceans, and peoples that they never knew existed. It's perhaps not an exaggeration to say that the desire to reach spice islands led to the European exploration of the entire planet. Okay, what do you guys think of that passage? Okay. So what I want to do now is pass out these assessments. You guys have the assessments? Did you all pass them out? No? Okay. And who the paper passers again? Have you just pass these out to the class? So in about a sentence or so, just one sentence is all I need from you. Are you got a paper passer?
Yeah.
Okay. So just a sentence or two, yes. Just a sentence or two, just answer the questions, and that'll help give me a good idea of how well you understand. What do you guys think of the spices?
We just have to
Very, very strong? It's not very strong? Yeah, when I was a kid, my mom was a great cook, and she knew how to use spices very well and ask flavor of food. So please take a few minutes and complete these assessments. And meanwhile, I'll talk to Ms. Hernandez.
So do your best to complete these. If you need to go back into the notes, you can go back into the readings if you need to.